Hello, and welcome back to Alchemy with Sheeana Leigh. It has been some time since I have shared a podcast. Last time you seen me, I was in Portugal with the beautiful Sophie, and that was my last podcast update. And since then, I have been everywhere and done a lot of things. And this episode, I'm just going to catch you up on the last few months, where I disappeared to, what I went through, and the amazing things I learned about myself, about others, and journeying all the way back into my space. And I'm currently living back in Perth. So I arrived in Australia last week, and yeah, I smashed my laptop. I don't know if I spoke about it on the last podcast, but I smashed my laptop. It is a touchscreen laptop, and it went a bit haywire and crazy. And it was really difficult to even bring out that last podcast with Sophie. And so I gave up, surrendered to the unknown, and just let it be until I was able to ground back in at home on Australian soil and sort it out. But wow, I have been on a bit of a journey since you last seen me. I have been moving through waves of sickness. I went through some smoke inhalation poisoning in Portugal, came out the other side of that, randomly got on a plane to Malta. I decided to catch the next flight out and ended up in beautiful Malta and had the most beautiful, profound, illuminating, delicious experiences there. I met some incredible people, went on some beautiful dates, got pampered and cherished, and it was really lovely, and spent a lot of time by myself. It was really interesting because I actually ended up on two of my huge lines there, my astrocartography lines. So I was in my Venus line and a Destiny line. I can't remember what it was, but the energy there was really intense and really beautiful. I got to, trace the lands and go to some beautiful, like, feminine worship temples where they were really honoring the feminine. There was like a solar temple and a lunar temple, and I got to go there and be on the land there. And there was these beautiful sculptures of these voluptuous women that were supposed to be, highly fertile. And there were large carvings and creations. And it was just really, really special to be at these sites that were older than, the pyramids and a lot of the other sites that I've been to. And I didn't even know that they were there. So it was definitely a divine calling to get there and to be there and to just move through a lot of my own personal things. As you know, I have been integrating a very huge season. And I found like I really did that while I was away, while I was by myself, while I was tracing the land. And traveling really is a gift and medicine when places call you and you surrender to that and follow the call. Profound shifts and changes happen. And I'm really grateful that I was able to do that in that space. But as you know, went traveling and went overseas to meet with some peers, some beautiful friends, and network. And I was landing in Bali to go to the Erotic Leaders Retreat, where people in my field were all coming together to spend a week together collaboratively, where we were also delving into receiving and also giving in these spaces. And that's where I ended my journey. So I went to Bali, and as you know, Bali to me is it's a land that not only invites you in, but it kind of can sometimes chew you up and spit you out. And that has definitely been my case the last few times I've been to Bali. So when I got to Singapore on my way over from Malta, I definitely got a little bit sick. I had some throat things going on. It was really intense, and I kind of ignored it as I do, and waited. And then as I was in Singapore, I realized that I actually had a hole in my throat. very interesting. I got very sick. By the time I got to Bali, as soon as I got to my villa, because I was just like praying, just get me to Bali, just get me to Bali. I got to Bali and I had to get the like emergency services to my villa straight away, put on drips, antibiotics, and I had an infected throat, obviously, and I left it a bit too long and it created damage in my throat. So as you can tell by this, this is what I've been moving through the last few months since I have done my podcast. It's kind of been one thing after another, body wise, and I've had to really surrender to my body and let it move through this like purging process, whatever it was going through. Once I moved through the antibiotics and anti-inflammatory process, which my body doesn't tend to very well, I had the onset of like body stuff showing up, that trying to process that, and then I got very sick because my immune system was down. So much so that by the time I basically laid flat in Bali in my villa and didn't move, with some of my beautiful friends. And that was a blessing in and of itself, because these two beautiful friends of mine and peers, I coached for a few years and actually got to marry them. So it was really beautiful to see them and be with them a couple of years after their marriage and their wedding that, I initiated and helped weave together right here in WA, to see their love blooming and blossoming and their relationship deepening and this sort of solidified, sanctified love between them. It was really beautiful. And they just opened up their hearts to me and like looked after me at a time, like looked after me through that time, which was really beautiful to receive. And they were coming with me to the Erotic Leaders Retreat. So this was their baby, their project. And it was really a very interesting time. And that is what I want to actually deepen into with you here. I want to delve into what the fuck is an Erotic Leaders Retreat, what happens at these spaces, and share my personal experience of what I've moved through, what I learned about myself, the lessons, the blessings, the realizations and observations, and what I've come back home with and really anchored in my body and being. So let's get raw and real on these spaces, because I don't share lots behind the scenes of these spaces. They are very closed spaces. And it was really edgy for me to be a part of this experience, because I have been married. I have been in a, monogamous, beautiful relationship for 13 years. And although I've held a lot of these spaces, a lot of like temple spaces, sensual exploration spaces, and facilitated these, I personally have not participated fully into like co-mixed spaces, feminine embodiment, like sensual, erotic temple spaces for women. Yes, kind of a different flavor, I believe. But this is and was different to anything that I had been a part of before. And I could already sense my own personal wounds coming up being in this space. There was a little bit of, and I'm sharing all this because I just find it so interesting that even somebody with this much experience, and it was a reflection I seen within everybody in the group, which I love, was everyone had their own personal like imposter syndrome, not good enough, wounding and elements come up. Not every single one, but it was a theme. And it's just so human. It's just so human of us to move through this. And I personally definitely still move through this. And it was coming up before the retreat. I was starting to feel and reflect on, who am I to step in this space where there are these erotic leaders and these people in these like sensual spaces, sex worker spaces, and kink spaces some of them have been doing it for 20 plus years. And I felt like, what what knowledge am I bringing to the table? Like, what am I, who am I to come into this space with all of these incredible people, and what can I bring? And I find that really interesting because, yeah, I wasn't the only one that had these like imposter syndrome, who am I to be here and show up, elements come into play. And yeah, I really want to normalize that's a huge part of our human experience and a huge piece within ourselves, like this protector piece and this defense mechanism piece that wants to keep us safe, that will sometimes criticize or come in to share these not truths about ourselves and to make us a little bit unsure of ourselves. And it's part of the normal human process to sit with that and be with that. So yeah, I had the experience of, yeah, imposter syndrome come up. And then I also had fear, just absolute fear, because not only was I being asked to facilitate these incredible people as well, like, who am I to facilitate these people? And am I good enough? I was also asked to participate. And like I said, I learned so much about myself in this space and in these spaces that I really want to share with you, because I find it very interesting when we start to think about these erotic play spaces or sensual places. We can sometimes think, and even myself, that there's something or have an expectation around what I have to be or who I have to be to show up in these spaces. And it's simply not true. I was worried that I was going to ask to, or having to participate meant I had to say yes when my body said no, or to show that I was like an erotic, embodied leader and like a real sensual, powerful, sexual woman. Like, I had to be open and receptive and yes to everyone and everything. And I really learned that that is not my flavor. I deeply learned that that is not who I am. Just because I am a deeply sensual, sexual, and embodied woman does not mean that I am open to anyone and everything and all experiences and always per se on. As a matter of fact, it means that I'm so deeply attuned to my body that I know when my body is a yes and when my body is a no, and I honor it and hold it with such reverence and boundaries and acceptance of that it doesn't feel icky or off or terrible or wrong. And it really pushed me to be in this space where people are exploring this side of them and to play in this field and to stand firm on the fact that I could be in these spaces and be erotic and alive and feel the medicine and still not want to explore other bodies or people or energies. And that is more than okay. Like, I am so solid and enough in myself that that was not only accepted from myself, but accepted and not thought of as weird with the group. And I will say that we had a very select group there, which was really nice to, be in that space of people that were just open and comfortable doing their thing and not holding their shadow pieces and perceiving other people a certain way. But that was really yummy. So yeah, as I was moving through, like, showing up in this space, I definitely sat with a closing in my body of, oh my God, like, this is going to be my first time exploring and opening and being in temple spaces personally, where I have permission, where I am allowed to, if I want to, be a yes and explore sexually, sensually, or otherwise. I absolutely can. And that was so terrifying. And along with that came a lot of, I really had to sit in some very uncomfortable truths about myself, which I really have only just started uncovering. And one of them being that I am not that way inclined. Even though I hold these spaces and I hold absolute reverence and awe for sexual liberation and exploration and sensuality. And to me, that means however that looks like for you. And I'm a fuck yes to that in every way, shape, and form. And to be that way, I have to actually get really comfortable with the fact that I am very energetically sensitive and very not that I can't. I can't. I'm a very, I would say, like in terms of sexuality, I am a very sort of demisexual kind of person. I have to have a very strong energetic pulse or chemistry with someone before I open myself up intimately. And that intimately to me is everything from kissing, playing, touching, let alone sexually. And that was really uncomfortable to sit with because obviously I haven't been able to explore my sexuality that deeply in this sort of realm because I have been in a committed relationship and married. And so it was kind of new to me to go like, wow, like I can be in these spaces. I can appreciate them, love them. Like I love being in erotic spaces. I love being naked. I'm so comfortable being naked around, 22 people, like with all different sizes and shapes and bodies. That feels wholesome to me and pure to me. And I love like sensuality and being so comfortable in the body and exploring your own sensuality. But when it comes to actually opening that up to another being in person, my body has to be, my body, soul, heart, energy, all has to be online. And it is very rare for me to have that expression and openness with another human being and body. Don't get me wrong, I definitely relished in kissing some beautiful women when I was there, like playfully while we were all like after this beautiful temple night. And that was yummy and playful and innocent, like full sort of fairy vibes. But, when it comes to like deeply erotically opening up, there is an element there for me of, yeah, knowing that has to be a certain way. And then also being comfortable in my no, like that's okay. And being in these spaces where people are exploring erotically, sensually, playfully, and that's okay too, because I hold like no, like I love these spaces. They just fill me up. They're so yummy and beautiful. Okay. So let me go into a little bit more about what I learned about myself on the Erotic Leaders Retreat. Obviously, I was a bit sick when I first arrived. I made a beautiful connection with a woman who I'm actually living with at the moment. She's incredible and beautiful and definitely like a soul connection. And I'm so, so grateful that we got to deepen in our connection while we were there. And that was medicine to me. And I also very much solidified and deepened into my relationship with a couple of other beautiful beings that, yeah, I married and, really solidified that network of people around me that are doing this type of work, ritual spaces, workshops, sensuality, sex work, like whatever, because they all hold different flavors and elements, and just be surrounded by people of that magnitude was so potent for me because I work a lot alone. Obviously, I'm an online sort of worker. I work alone and we're all spread all around the world. And it's not very often, there's my housemate at the back there. But anyway, it's not very often we get to come together because we're so spread out. So it was really special to anchor in and feel that energy and connection between us all. So, what goes on these retreat spaces, and what can you expect at temple spaces and workshop spaces? Because I know that there's a misconception with what these spaces are. And even for me, still, I hold on to this like over sexualization, like they're all having like a massive orgy and it's just this big fuck fest and everyone's going crazy and it's just like insidious and a bit icky. And I know that has been sold to us and marketed to us, and that's kind of what we see in movies and this, that, and the other and in society, but that is not the case. These spaces are so deeply intentional, powerful, healing, dripping with pleasure and play, but in such a honoring, reverence, like holy matter that it actually strips away all of this like insidious, like yucky thing. Like, don't get me wrong, we went into kink and things like that as well. But I'm going to share my experience with that actually. But yeah, it's just a totally different flavor. We had this one was like one of a kind, right? It was a big week. It was 7 days. I shared some snippets, like behind the scenes snippets, only on Snapchat. I know, weird, right? I didn't share much on Instagram or social media. Like I said, they're deeply closed, sacred, intimate spaces, which kind of sucks because we can never share the extent and the beauty and the absolute power in these spaces sometimes. You can't see it. You can't, and it's a no talk policy too. Like, privacy is the utmost, and we don't talk about other people's experiences or anything like that. Like, it's deeply private, confidential. So I'm going to try and layer in my experience and snippet of this because, yeah, I think it's really potent. And I think if everybody went to one of these sorts of temple nights, workshop spaces, it would forever change your life. And it does. Every time I have held these spaces, seen people in these spaces, they have come, they have shown up, they have cracked open, they have learned about themselves. And even us as a group of 22, embodied like leaders that have in this field that have been doing this for so long, we still got cracked open. And at the end came out with like new truth and awareness and fire and creation and reverence for ourselves and our work. And that's something I really want to, like, you never stop learning, you never stop growing and evolving. And the moment you do is you become stagnant, and stagnancy breeds disease. I talk about this all the time. Let me get back to the element of these. I will talk about, it was a one of a kind event. So we wouldn't normally do that many temples. We did 7 temples. So a temple every night. We basically, and they all had different flavors. And each one of us shared the temple space, like holding the temple space. And yeah, we had workshops during the day. So we each got to share a workshop, and we had all sorts of things from, we just got to share in our passion in our field and our area of expertise. So we had everything from acro yoga to dance, ecstatic dance, to anal awakening, learning actually how to awaken the anal and G-spot area for men. We had demonstrations, learned how to do that. We just got to deepen in our awareness by other leaders and experts in their field, and kind of add more to the tool belt and like our own experience. We learned about devotional cock worship, devotional pussy worship, and massages. That was beautiful, witnessing and seeing that, even though, it's always so beautiful to see somebody in their element and field. Even though I do that work myself, I still learned something off of somebody, and it was potent to witness and see. We had, all sorts of different workshops. One morning we all just sat around naked and ate fruits for breakfast and shared a collective sort of like reading and connection. A lot of nudity, of course, a lot of like honoring our bodies and it being, and it's interesting because once you're nude all the time and naked all the time, there comes an element of it not being like sexualized, but it just being beautiful and normal. And I think we're all meant to be rolling around naked anyway, like, yum. And a lot of connections, we had exercises that were like authentic relating exercises. And we had like funny skits and moments where people just brought their fun and laughter. But the temple nights all had a different flavor and experience. We had a sensual temple, a worship temple. My temple was the grief and rage temple. We called it the emergence temple. And I want to talk a bit more about that because me and Steph are going to actually bring this temple experience to WA. So I'm really excited about that. We had a ritual theatre temple, which I got to really explore like my dom side. I got a bit of training from some incredible like doms and kink professionals while I was there, and got to embody this like pain priestess and move them through an awakening journey through their pain and shadow, which was absolutely transformational. We had a kink temple, so learning a little bit about kink and sadism and that sort of pain threshold. It was so powerful, and it's not what you think. And this is really interesting, and what I want to really solidify, because you hear these things and you think that they're so edgy and so raw and so intense, but then to come into a space where it's like conscious kink and therapeutic kink base and moving through an experience within the body and embodied present alchemy, it's so different. And it might seem a little bit edgy, but it is such a powerful experience. And then I can't even remember the rest of the temple spaces. I actually can't remember. But I wanted to share that, this was still edgy for me. Some things were really edgy for me, like exploring kink, even though I have helped couples and moved couples and done sort of a lot of things around like conscious kink and therapeutic kink. To actually be in a place of receiving and giving myself was edgy, was really edgy and fun and playful, and it was held so powerfully. There was never any expectation to push further. It was really about like being conscious, aware, and in your body, and there was a tantric element like weaved throughout the entire space, so it was powerful. The ritual theater workshop was so incredible. That was held by Luna. She did this like Persephone's journey, underworld journey, and the initiations phases. And that's where I got to explore my dom phase. And it was really interesting because I got to initiate them through their pain body. And I walked them up to this like St. Andrew's, or is it St. Andrew's or cross, where they're in that little cross and you kind of like hold their hands together. And I was all dressed up for the part. It was like a very archetypal like experience. And basically asked if you don't even want to know, I got really into it. I was really like, are you ready to face your pain and be awakened through your pain and your shadow? And they're like, yes. So I walked them through, and like, it's a dark temple, there's lighting, it's a very sensual and beautiful, powerful space. There was all different elements there that put them up. And I learned how to like whip and all this stuff. So I tied them up, and it was just so beautiful because I obviously pushed them to their pain threshold. And then I went round and I was looking into their eyes and holding their neck and holding their body and asking if they were okay, basically, and if they wanted more, if they were ready to receive more, and asking them to breathe the pain and the energy like up through their body and through the microcosmic orbit. And they just had these like beautiful, transformational, surrendering, blissful experiences, which I am so deeply thankful and grateful for, that I got to receive that, learn that. And I will actually, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to read you one of another person's, they actually sent me this beautiful review because I was like, I really enjoyed this. It was really powerful. And this is what one of the women said. My dom session with Sheeana was amazing. I had asked to be spanked at a level 5 out of 10, as previously harder spankings had really triggered me and had me feeling all of the unloved and unmet feels all at once. Sheeana totally met my needs, positioning me just right and spanking my bottom just the right pressure and intensity while holding me and telling me I was a good girl. I could feel the neural connections in my brain shifting, some early childhood memories around being spanked towards something far more loving and healing. When she held me and said, "I've got you," I utterly melted. At last, I was seen for the good girl that I am. What an experience. And it truly was, and this is what I really wanted to share here, is like, it was a powerful healing experience. There was some releases. I got to hold her, nurture her, and give her these beautiful aftercare as she sort of melted. And yeah, just, one of my superpowers and one of my gifts in this realm and field of work is obviously tracking the body. Like, I really, as a somatic practitioner and doing this work for so long, I track the body and the micro expressions, and I can kind of pick up the energy. So obviously I move through spaces of not being able to push out of their window of tolerance, connecting in, saying what they needed to hear, and then letting them sort of move through their own process and come back home to themselves. And it was truly sensational to hold that space for someone else and have that experience. I also had like a mini experience like this when I was receiving. So potent. And I just think it's really powerful to share these things because, yeah, you see snippets, you can't see behind the scenes, and your perception of what these spaces are can sometimes be so far from the norm or what is true. And so another really powerful temple was the worship temple, where we actually got to ask for what would it be like to be worshipped? Like, what would I need? And we got to write a list down of how we wanted to be worshipped. And I wrote really cute things like, there was some more sensual erotic things, like obviously a breast massage. Receiving a breast massage, it's, to me, that is like beautiful. I wanted rose petals dropped all over my body. I wanted, compliments and praises. I'm a bit of a praise gal, whispered into my ear. I wanted my hair straight, my hair braided. And we actually got to be worshipped by everybody there, men and women, moved around, and we got to be in our receivership and our erotic receivership, and they just got to gift us and give us this totally worship devotional, and it's so healing for the body to actually just be there without actual exchange and without expectation of giving and receiving, and just to fully receive in your being, erotically, pleasurely, devotionally. Like, devotional worship is powerful. Some people asked for pussy massages, some people asked for, these sorts of things. Everybody was different, and yeah, they got their needs met because, yeah, it was just really potent to have this whole space of complete devotion and worship and receiving and melting in that, and to feel like you are worthy and whole just as you are. And that was powerful. And yeah, one of the temple spaces I got to hold was the grief and rage temple. And it was really interesting. And I want to preface this because, as you can see, temples are always different. There is the openness for play, for connection, for eroticism. But let me tell you that that is not always the case. Like, some of these spaces, like, we made these temples where there was not an expectation of play and sex, and there was this is your creational life force energy in motion. This is a place where you can show up, strip yourself bare, metaphorically and physically, and be in your erotic, sensual life force energy and letting it move through you however you want. Some people just danced in these spaces. Yes, some people were erotic and kissing and exploring themselves and each other. And some people were just dancing. Some people were writing poetry. Some people were creating. In our temple alone, we actually had a few spaces set out. So we had a creative space. We had, so people could go and write poetry and create. We had like a bit more of a fire space where people could express, because we moved through a deeply powerful grief and rage ceremony where they got to be witnessed fully in their erotic aliveness and with their rage and their grief. And it was a collective purge. Like, it wasn't just about ourselves and our ego and our pains and our aches. Like, these were powerful leaders that were coming up and really on the altar, on the intentional altar, like putting their personal stuff aside and really going like to a transpersonal space about for the collective, for the earth, for everybody. And so it turned into a deeply powerful, expansive grief and rage release. And being witnessed in that, it's deeply erotic to see somebody in their true expression, their true emotional full purge. There is nothing wrong with that. And I see this again and again in relationships and people not being able and do not have the capacity to hold such realness, authenticity. And I get that because I'm deeply intense woman, and a lot of people struggle to hold that or have capacity to receive that without closing down. And we really need to build our capacity as human beings, but that is a topic for another day. But to actually sit in the edge of just witnessing someone, not going into savior, not going into leaning into like, I need to help you fix you or change your state, because it is true, raw, unbridled life force moving through their body. And that is fucking powerful, to sit in a space of reverence and awe and honoring for that as the human expression and as creational energy moving through somebody. And wow, wow. So that we're bringing this, me and Steph are going to bring this to Perth, which I'm really excited about bringing. And yeah, more about that later. But then we got to move into a space because we were like, how are we going to bring this grief and rage ceremony into like eroticism or opening it up? And to be honest, like, it is erotic. Like, energy is just energy, right? And whether it's sadness, happiness, play, like, it is just aliveness moving. And then we opened up the space to, yeah, moving into connecting after that. And it was such a beautiful unfolding. I seen couples there and lovers there, because we did have couples on the retreat that were together, that just moved through this devotional, like, honoring of like, wow, I really see you and I've never seen you this way before. And then moving into these like beautiful cuddle spaces and these like cuddle puddles. And then I just like hand fed people like beautiful treats afterwards to ground them. And it was so potent. And that's what you can kind of expect at these beautiful erotic connection spaces. And even to me and my surprise, I learned so much, and I learned so much about myself and about other people and how other people perceive me and who I am as a person, who I am as a facilitator. I am a fuck off good facilitator. And I had that reflection, not to sound too egotistical and like toot my own horn, but I get so nervous every time I hold an event, every time I speak, every time. So much nerves and so much imposter syndrome like runs through me, like, I'm not good enough, or what if I fuck up, what if I'm not this, that, and the other. And then as soon as I anchor into that space and I come into like, I am holding this space, something shifts and changes completely, and I anchor in, and I am incredible. I am absolutely incredible. And each time I do it, I'm like, wow, like, more people need this. I need to get the fuck out of my own way and out of my own insecurities and really start showing up, because this stuff can change. It does. It changes people's lives. And when you start to really anchor in that calling, or that knowing that what I share and what I do is so much more powerful and so much more than just my little insecurities in my head, you really start to learn that, like, yeah, you need to get out of your own way and kind of get over yourself to be able to offer such intentional, powerful healing spaces is a gift. It's an honor, and it's absolute privilege. So if you are one of these people that have these offerings or these desires to build communities and spaces, and you haven't yet, let this be a permission slip, because I still have these things and I still show up anyway, and it's absolutely transformational and powerful. And I even had people that have been in this line of work come up to me as a reflection at the end and tell me how potent the space is that I hold, and how they want to work with me and collab with me. And that was really medicine to my heart, I guess, and really made me think, like, what am I doing, Sheeana? You could be doing so much more with your gifts. So that's what I really learned about myself. And I really had to accept that, yeah, I am one of these people that just, I had the best time. I was naked. I was frolicking. I was around. Me and Steph were being the biggest cuties, patooties ever, like rolling around. I don't know if I should have said her name, but anyway, impersonal. I'm sure you would have seen her on my social media anyway. And we were just so cute, like solidified. We were like these little little phase, these little naked phase, like little mischievous babes. And I had to really come home to the fact of myself as like, I could have explored connections and spaces, and I really didn't. And that's okay, because that's just not who I am, and that is not who I'll ever be. And I think that a lot of times too, when people hear about my work and what I do, they have this misconception that I am like this overly sexual, like overtly, like I'm dabbling in all of these things, and I'm just like, but it's just not true. Like I'm still learning, I still learn, and I am deeply, deeply one of these people that wants to like merge with another human soul. And I will never be one of these people that actually opens myself up erotically, sensually, sexually, uh, unless there's this deep seated, like, you feel it in your body. I'm a body-based woman. Like connection, chemistry, alignment, aliveness, like I will follow that. But that is shit's rare, and I'm just not one of those people. And I had to be fully okay with being in these erotic spaces and letting myself like dance and play and frolic and roll around on a fluffy blanket because I'm such a textual like babe. And then going for a nude swim at night time. That was like my ritual and my connection back to myself before ending the day and coming alive again the next day and holding more space and going to these workshop spaces. So I learn a lot. I learn a lot about myself, who I am, what I do, how I serve, and knowing that all these other people, that incredible people, have similar experiences of, imposter or not showing up enough is really, I hope that you take that away from this, and just, if you have a calling or a passion or a desire, that you just fucking follow it like full throttle and don't care if it's messy, because that is how we learn and grow. And I'm still learning that in this day and age. So I hope you really enjoyed today's podcast. It was all about, just accepting your little little tiddly like layers of being a human, your spaces of where you feel like you're not good enough, or and if you are wanting to explore or delve into any of these beautiful like community spaces held, and don't get me wrong, I would not go to a lot of workshops, retreats, tantric things, conscious kink things. There are some icky, tricky, insidious type energetics and people out there. I'm not going to lie, especially in this field. But if you are wanting to be held in these spaces, in workshops, temples, retreats, etc., there is a space. There is spaces around, and many people doing this work that you can be held with reverence and honor, and like honor your yes and no. And it's so scary at first, but as soon as you get there and you find your peace and your medicine within yourself, and communities that hold you, they're powerful and potent places of exploring, pushing your edges. I'm one of those people that loves. I'm a bit of an extremist. I love my edges being pushed and the sensational experience in that. But there is a beautiful festival. I'm going to share that with you because it is in Western Australia. If you are in Western Australia, or you know anyone in Western Australia that wants to dive into this, there is a festival coming up that is called Embodied Eros Festival. It is the only sacred sexuality festival in Western Australia at this point in time. And it's a 3-day event where you get to dabble in workshops, retreat spaces, and all sorts of elementals of like kink and play and dom work. And not only that, but I think yoni worship, breast massage, there's all different flavors of like sensuality, sexuality, and eroticism at this event. And I have a discount code. I have a 10% discount code. It's available only until next week. I will put that in the show notes. I'll put the details, put the link for the event, because I'm facilitating at this event. I'm really excited. I'm facilitating 2 workshops. One is, they're both like very tantric kink, or I would say like conscious kink sort of elements. One is called Deep Throat, and it is all about dirty talk, speaking up, unlocking your throat, and claiming your desires. And the second one is called Sacred Sadism, where we actually move into the realm of pleasure and pain. And this is going to be so powerful for you as a lover to actually track the body. I'm going to get into the somatics of it, and attunement as a human being, because I think that we are missing that in every area and aspect of our lives, but especially with sensuality and sexuality with a partner and with ourselves. Learning to track a body and the attunement with another person and being, that is next level. That is top tier lover level. Anyway, if you would love to come along, I would love to see you there. Tickets are limited, and the discount code I will share with you gives you 10% off until next week. But this is where it's at. This is the type of festival and things that I will be diving into in the coming months, and I can't wait to see you there. Please reach out, let me know how this episode landed, and I will come back and see you next week, which I cannot wait. I have some incredible guests lined up over the next couple of months, and you're just going to be blown away. Share this podcast episode with anyone that you think needs to receive it or hear it. And yeah, I'm sending you lots of love and wild, reverence for your journey wherever you're at. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you next time. Bye.